Hello and welcome to the class. My name is Daniel and today we're going to be looking at part 4 of the listening exam. Now, if you have a question after the class, you can go to the top of the screen and click on the chat icon to send us a message. This is the second of 2 classes and will last just over 20 minutes. First, we're going to talk about what discourse markers are and how they're used in the listening. And then we're going to talk about how to answer diagram questions. So by the end of the session, you'll be more aware of how to approach these types of listening questions. During the class, there'll be questions for you to answer. These will appear below the video. I'll tell you when you need to answer them, and I'll give you 10 to 15 seconds for each one. So let's start with discourse markers. So what are discourse markers? Well, discourse markers are words that organize a text, and they tell the reader or the listener what is about to follow. So what's coming next? And we're going to see some examples of what I mean now. So let's take a sentence like this. So that's why I couldn't go to the party. And then it has the word anyway here. Now, anyway is a discourse marker. And what it means is the next thing that comes here is going to be changing the subject. So here they're talking about the party. Here, they're going to talk about something else. For example, so that's why I couldn't go to the party. Anyway, what are you doing tomorrow? So I've changed the subject. And when I use the word anyway, the person listening to me understands that I'm going to change the subject. So that's one example of a discourse marker. Here's another one. I really enjoyed the food at the restaurant. Mind you, now after mind you, which is a discourse marker, you're going to add a negative aspect. So I enjoyed the food. Mind you, the service was very bad. So you talk about a negative thing about the restaurant in this situation. So mind you is another discourse marker. Finish the paragraph, pause and say, now, these days technology is everywhere. This is a new paragraph. So this discourse marker now is when you've finished one paragraph and you want to tell the listeners or you want to tell the reader you're starting a new paragraph. This is particularly important in listening because in writing and reading, you have one paragraph here and you can see here's the next paragraph. It's separated. But in listening, you don't have that. You just have to listen for discourse markers. And we're going to see some examples of this later. Here's another one. So, how do we solve the problem? Well, this introduces solutions. It's called a rhetorical question. So basically you're saying, now I'm going to talk about solutions to the problem. But instead of saying that, you say, so how do we solve the problem? Well, one solution is da 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 da. So you're just introducing the solutions here by asking this question. And again, this is very, very, very common in listening, particularly listening part 4. It's not very common in reading. Okay, so why are discourse markers useful? Well, they're very useful, mostly because part 4 is very, very long. It's just one person speaking for a long time about a topic which is quite complex, and it can be easy to get lost. So as I say, it's one person speaking, and it's more difficult to follow than a conversation. If there's 2 people speaking, you can listen to that person, you can hear the other person's response, and it's easy to keep on track. However, when it's just one person, it's easy to get lost. So you can lose your place. Maybe you're trying to find the answer to question 1 here, but the person's already speaking about question 4 here. So you've lost your place, and it can be difficult to find your place again or to get back on track again after you get lost. And discourse markers can help with this. So yes, as I say, they can help to keep you on track. They can help to keep you focused on the listening and where you are. So let's look at a typical note completion activity that we've got here. You can see it says complete the notes below, and you have to find the missing words here. Now, one thing that helps to know is that in the IELTS listening, question 1 will always be before question 2 in the listening, and question 2 will always be before question 3. You never have to answer 3 and then 1 and then 2. It always goes 1, 2, 3. So the listening moves in the same direction as the audio, which is good. Now, we need to think, how many paragraphs are going to be in this listening? How will the listening be broken into paragraphs? Well, let's look at the topic. The topic here is reasons for increase in popularity of mindfulness. And it's got 3 headings here. It's got psychological, societal, and technological. So those are 3 separate ideas. Psychological reasons, societal reasons, technological reasons are separate. So they will be organized into 3 separate paragraphs. And when you organize a listening into separate paragraphs, you will start each paragraph with a discourse marker. And this can really help you to follow the listening, because when you hear a discourse marker, you can go, okay, now it's talking about societal. And then when you hear another discourse marker, you can go, okay, now it's talking about the technological issues. So it can help you to follow the text here. So let's have a bit of practice with this. Well, here we can see some discourse markers, and we're going to listen, and I want you to look at the question below the video and choose the correct options. Which of these do you hear?
So where are we today? Well, despite its fairly slow beginnings, in recent years, mindfulness has seen a stratospheric rise in popularity. In fact, it is estimated that some 18 million Americans now have a regular meditation routine, and that 44% of U.S. companies offer mindfulness training to their staff. But what has driven the surge in interest? Well, one factor is the development in fields such as clinical psychology and neuroscience. Scientists have been able to see exactly how stress, depression, and anxiety affect the brain, and how mindfulness can be used to treat such conditions. Another factor, it could be argued, is our changing society and day-to-day lives. We are ever more living in a world where we are expected to work harder, where we have less time to ourselves, where job security is low and competition for new jobs is high, and where our senses are bombarded from all sides by technology. It's no wonder then that 44% of U.S. citizens report that they feel more stressed today than they did 5 years ago. A final contributing factor is that of technology. In the past, if you wanted to attend a mindfulness course, you had to find somewhere that ran one, go there once a week, and possibly pay a hefty sum of money, whereas nowadays, you need only switch on your phone, tap on the menu button, navigate to the App Store, click download, and after waiting for the installation to complete, you have access to hundreds of guided mindfulness sessions.
So which of these did we hear? Well, let's go through them one at a time. Did we hear the word now? That didn't come up in there. But we did hear the word so. That was right at the beginning. She said so and started speaking. So that was a discourse marker to kind of get people to pay attention, and she started speaking. Number 3, yes, we did hear that. That was the start of the reasons. The first paragraph, she used that to introduce. Then we heard well, which was to answer this question. So first she asked this rhetorical question, and then she went well to start answering the question. So again, you had but what to introduce it, and then well to actually answer it. So using those 2. We didn't hear the next one, But we did hear this. One factor is, and this was introducing the second paragraph. And then another factor is we heard that as well to introduce the next paragraph as well. And another thing is we didn't hear that was probably too informal to use in this type of listening. And then when she introduced the final paragraph, she used this here, one final factor is. So you should have heard 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9. And these were to organize her ideas. Now let's look at how they were used for each one. So we can see we've got the first part of the note completion here, complete the note. So we're trying to find the answer to this. And we can see what she said here. She said, but what has driven the surge in interest? So there's that but what. And then she said, well, one factor is the development in fields such as clinical psychology and neuroscience. So we're looking for psychological issues. So by hearing this, one factor is psychology and neuroscience. We've got psychology, psychological. So we know that somewhere here, this next bit here, we can find this answer. It would be following this. And by listening for those discourse markers here, we can go, okay, she's now going to give us the answer somewhere in this paragraph. If we look at the second one, which was societal, she said another factor, it could be argued, is our changing society. And so when you hear that discourse marker, another factor is, you know you're starting to look at this section here, societal. She mentioned society. And so the answer for 2 would certainly be in this paragraph following that discourse marker. And then for the third one, again, we can see it's technological, the paragraph. And she said a final contributing factor is technology. And so the answer for 3 would be in the paragraph after this discourse marker. So by knowing what these discourse markers do, you can listen and find your way through the answers more easily. Now let's take a look at diagrams. It's another common type of activity that you have to do in the IELTS listening. And you would get some instructions like this. So it says, label the diagram below. Write no more than 3 words for each answer. So you could write 1, you could write 2, you could write 3. And you would get a diagram that looks something like this. Now this is some phones, but it could be like a machine. Often it's a machine that you have to label, or maybe a map or something like that. And you have to start by looking for the key words in the diagram. So here's what we're missing. We need to complete these with no more than 3 words. And first we need to look at the key words, as we said. So it says switch on your phone. Click on the something to the App Store. Click download. Access online content after. So these are the key words here. And once we've got these keywords, the next thing that we need to do is think of synonyms for them. So for switch on, you might hear things like turn on or power up or something like that. For click on, you might hear tap on, select, hit, or press. These are all synonyms for those. The App Store probably doesn't have a synonym. That's the name of it. So I doubt that it has any synonyms there. Again, click download. You could just use the verb download, so a word family, instead of click download. Again, like we had click here, you could have the same synonyms for click there, tap on, press, hit, that kind of thing. And then it says online content, and we could have like online materials or resources on the internet or courses or something like that. So we need to highlight the keywords and then think of what are the synonyms for those key words. Then the final stage would be to try to predict what is missing from the gaps, what could go there. So click on well, what can you click? You could click on an icon, you could click on a button, something like that. So it's going to be a noun and it's going to be something related to icons or buttons. Then here, it's got to the App Store. So this is going to be a verb, maybe go to the App Store or something like that. And then finally, it says access online content after. Well, it can't be a full sentence because we've just got 3 words, but maybe it could be a gerund, like after finishing downloading or after completing the process. So it's going to be some kind of gerund with maybe another noun. Now we're going to have a little bit of practice. So I'd like you to look at questions 2 to 4 below the video and listen and see if you can complete the gaps.
So where are we today? Well, despite its fairly slow beginnings, in recent years, mindfulness has seen a stratospheric rise in popularity. In fact, it is estimated that some 18 million Americans now have a regular meditation routine, and that 44% of U.S. companies offer mindfulness training to their staff. But what has driven the surge in interest? Well, one factor is the development in fields such as clinical psychology and neuroscience. Scientists have been able to see exactly how stress, depression, and anxiety affect the brain, and how mindfulness can be used to treat such conditions. Another factor, it could be argued, is our changing society and day-to-day lives. We are ever more living in a world where we are expected to work harder, where we have less time to ourselves, where job security is low and competition for new jobs is high, and where our senses are bombarded from all sides by technology. It's no wonder then that 44% of U.S. citizens report that they feel more stressed today than they did 5 years ago. A final contributing factor is that of technology. In the past, if you wanted to attend a mindfulness course, you had to find somewhere that ran one, go there once a week, and possibly pay a hefty sum of money, whereas nowadays, you need only switch on your phone, tap on the menu button, navigate to the App Store, click download, and after waiting for the installation to complete, you have access to hundreds of guided mindfulness sessions.
Okay. So let's have a look at the part of that listening that contained the key answers. Well, we can see here we've got what she said. It was right at the end. She said, nowadays, you need only switch on. So we've got that, switch on your phone. Fine, all of that's okay. Tap, which was a synonym for click, on the menu button. So that was the first answer there, would be menu button. Then we've got a verb straight away. We've got navigate to the App Store. So we've got the App Store. And so the correct answer there is navigate. Then we've got click download. So it's following the sequence here. Click download. And after waiting for the installation to complete, you have access to hundreds of guided mindfulness. So access online content. That's the same as access to hundreds of guided mindfulness sessions. And we've got the word after. So after waiting for installation. So waiting for installation would be the missing answer that we need to go there. So that's how you would approach a diagram question for a listening task. If you have any questions, remember you can go to the top of the screen and click on the chat icon to send us a message. Now, remember to complete the online activities and training exercises. Thank you very much for joining the class. We'll see you again.